Manx Radio Sport.
A very good evening to you. Welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. I'm Rob Pritchard, here with you until 6:30, taking a look to the sporting action taking place across the Isle of Man and beyond this weekend. Coming up tonight, the Women's Floodlit Cup Final is the centrepiece of the Manx football fixtures this weekend, whilst the league calendar continues across the men's divisions on Saturday. In rugby, two more tough trips across the water for two of our island sides, whilst we enter week 3 of the new look Ravenscroft Manx Trophy domestically, and it's also week 3 of the men's and ladies hockey season. We take a look at who's making the early impressions across the leagues. That is all to come this evening. Starting things off with football tonight, as I mentioned, we have the usual series of league fixtures taking place, but in and amongst that is the grandeur of a cup final taking place this Sunday. We'll come to that in just a couple of moments' time. But first off, we need to introduce him. He's back once again, Tony Mepham. Very good evening to you.
Hi Rob, different surroundings, aren't we? We've been moved into a different studio, but very cosy.
It's all very feng shui, isn't it?
Isn't it?
It just changes it up a little bit, doesn't it? Okay, let's take a look through the fixtures this weekend, starting with tomorrow. All games kicking off at 2 o'clock. Start with the Canada Life Men's Premier League, and first up here on Glen Crutchley Road, it'll be St George's, and they'll be hosting Union Mills, Tony.
Yeah, St George's 2 games ago, they played really well, got those 3 points, and it started to pull them away from that relegation zone. But last week it didn't happen for them. I know there were 1 or 2 sort of players missing, but it is tight when you look at that bottom 4-5 positions. So St George's shouldn't be panicking at the moment. But they're hitting Union Mills at a great time. I think Paul Guyver's team at the moment is lacking confidence. They're not scoring enough goals. They're not winning games, and just all round they seem to be struggling a little bit. So I think St George's will win it. I haven't heard team news. I'm sure Johnny Myers will send that to me tonight. But yeah, I've got to go for them with what performance they put in a couple of weeks ago.
Speaking of Union Mills, well, their opponents from last weekend, league leaders Peel, they're back on home soil, and they'll be taking on Douglas Royal this weekend.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, Peel may be 1 or 2 players missing from last week in this week's squad. No Lee Gale, I know that. He's got a bit of a think hamstring problem, so he won't play. But all round, I think Peel's still quite confident because, the top of the table, played 14, 35 points. And when you look at third place, who have played the same amount of games, are on 22. They're sitting pretty comfortable with that 13-point gap. But, Douglas Royal certainly have got the capability to beat them. Michael Fitzmaurice will, explain to his team what he expects, where their hassles are going to come from. As far as I know, Rhys Oates is going to play up front, so he's going to be the main man to keep nice and tight. But I just think the way Peel are playing at the moment, go for them to win.
Very well, then we move to the south of the island. Potentially intriguing one here. Russian United, who've had a bit of a boost in form recently, come up against St John's.
Yeah, and this is the game you and Paul have sent me to, so go down and I'll bring you this live at 2 o'clock. But Russian, they'll be disappointed they've lost Mikey Williams. Mikey steps into the FC Isle of Man fold. As well with St John's, it's just been stop-start for them, hasn't it? Just before Christmas and now after Christmas. Their pitch has been past fit, so that's okay for the combination. But there's no doubt about it. The main threat comes from up front, Callum Taggart and also Lees, and they've just got to keep those 2 going, see if they can get the goals. And I just don't think they're going to have enough. I'm going to go for Russian to win.
Very well, then we come to 2 teams at opposite ends of the table. Corinthians still undefeated with a gap to make up on Peel at the top. Corinthians in second, and they travel to bottom of the table, Moran.
Yeah, and when you look at Moran have played 10, Corinthians have played 11, and there's 20 points difference, so it just shows you a bit of a struggle for Moran. But, Moran, when they play at home, it's always a little bit of an advantage pitch for them because it's tight. It could be a little bit sticky with the weather that we had last week. This week's been pretty good. But David Brew will be looking to plot the downfall of Corinthians. Fair play to Corinthians. They're given a couple of new debutants tomorrow, young lads that have come through. And I just think Corinthians hopefully will have enough and to keep on winning ways and take the points away from Moran.
Very well, and then we've got Douglas High School Old Boys, and they'll be at home against Ramsey.
Yeah, Old Boys, as they showed last week, battled really well against Corinthians, 3-1 up at one stage with about 20 minutes to go, so maybe fitness told in the end. Ramsey are again, at the moment, not in good form. Jekyll and Hyde, they haven't picked up many points from December and now January. But I just think they'll have enough against Old Boys. But again, sticky pitch at Blackberry Lane might just play in the hands of Old Boys.
And making up the final fixture of the Canada Life Men's Premier League this weekend is Laxey, and they'll be hosting Ayr United.
And I believe you're going to this one, Rob.
That's the plan.
Good man.
That's the plan.
Good man, and great to see. And Ayr United at the moment in great form. Nick Hurt's really got the boys playing well. He's scoring plenty of goals himself, and right the way through. Jamie Callister in there is keeping things nice and tight. Johnny Shields been playing well. Declan Cummins has been superb. But Johnny Palmer's got a good team out tomorrow. I've seen it. Brodie Patience will play. I'm sure he's got a bandage on his head. But, it's going to be a big, big game this for both teams. And I think just on the moment, on current form, I'm going to go with Ayr. But Laxia in good form as well. But I just think Ayr have got enough to win it.
An intriguing one. OK, let's have a quick look through the other divisions. We'll start with DPS Limited Division 2. 5 games on Saturday. Yeah,
and St Mary's against Douglas and District. You have to go for St Mary's because the league table doesn't lie, but they've got a cup game up shortly, haven't they? So we'll find out, see how they're going to get on. But Michael against Douglas Athletic, keeping the pressure on at the top of the table. They've got 2 games in hand, 2 games behind St Mary's, and on 22 points, so they need to keep winning. Go for Michael to win that. Foxdale against Governors Athletic. Shipping a lot of goals at the moment, Governors Athletic, so you have to go with Foxdale. Colby against Ramsey Youth Centre. I've had a lot of discussion at work today over this one. I've gone for Ramsey Youth Centre to beat Colby 2-0. I've got a bacon pap on this one. He's gone for 3-1. So I'm going to go for Ramsey Youth Centre to win. And Castletown against Braddon. This is going to be another super game because these two teams challenging at the top of the table. They're right next to each other in the league. When you look at Castletown, they've only played 7 games, but they're ahead of Braddon, who've played 10. Braddon have got some really good players in there, but I just think Castletown have got more experience and they'll win it.
High stakes on that Colby game. Bacon back.
£4
Always worth winning. Okay, let's move on to the combination divisions. In Canada Life Combi 1, we have 5 games this weekend.
We do, and in combination 1, Douglas Royal against Peel. I say it every week, I'm going to say it again. They're the only team I think that can catch Russian, because Russian are absolutely phenomenal at the moment. So I'm going to go for Karen Christian's team to win that one. St John's against Russian. This is going to be a close game, this. And, the pitch is fine at St John's. It was looked at on Wednesday at St Goodnick. But Russian, maximum points on board. Incredible season so far. But St John's have got the capability, even though they played Division 2 last year, to win this one. Corinthians against Moran. I don't know how the players stepping up will affect them, but I think Corinthians still should have enough to win it. Ramsey against Old Boys, I go for Ramsey, even though Old Boys have pulled the socks up and working hard. And Ayr against Laxia, I'll go for Ayr to win.
Very well, and then rounding off Saturday, DPS Limited Combination 2, we have 4 games in.
Yeah, and Douglas and District against St Mary's. St Mary's looking to win this league, so I'll go for St Mary's to win. And then you've got Jims against Pulrose. Pulrose should be too strong for Jims, but I noticed Jims have got 1 or 2 back. Andrew Burke at 1. Maloo against Castletown. Maloo second in the league, so I'll go for Maloo to win that. And Ramsey Youth Centre against Colby. Dizzy Heights for Ramsey Youth Centre sitting top of the table. Go for them to beat Colby.
Very well, those are your fixtures on Saturday. We move into Sunday, and as we mentioned before, a cup final taking place. It is the Canada Life Women's Floodlit Cup Final, 2:45pm on Sunday at the Bowl. Corinthians versus Peel. This has the makings of a great game, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and just again depends on the teams. I know Shannon Groves is missing for Corinthians, so that'll hamper things at the back because she's so solid. She's only small but superb centre back. As well with Peel, they know what's coming because last game, it was only a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? Corinthians beat them. I think it was 5-1. So Becky Corkish and Ellie Gorn and everyone else there know what they've got to do. Got to be more sort of clinical in front of goal. I think they know that. But when you look at Erin Snells and Emily Rawlinson, 2 young players who've come into the senior league in the last couple of years, it's going to be very difficult for Peel to win. Go for Corinthians to take the final.
And then last but certainly not least, 2 games in the Masters football on Sunday, both kicking off at 2 o'clock.
Douglas and District against Douglas Royal. Douglas Royal still hoping to win the Masters League, but there's a right good battle going on at the top of the table, but I think Royal will win this one. And Corinthians against Onken, second game in 2 weeks for Onken. They've only played 3 or 4 I think it is, so way down the pecking order in games played. But, Corinthians, great result against Colby. They'll be hoping to take the points away from Onken, but I'm going to go for a draw.
Very well, those are your games across the Isle of Man football leagues on Saturday. And just very quickly, there's a huge game taking place in the North West Counties Football League Premier Division on Ireland this weekend. FC Isle of Man looking to turn around a recent run of 3 straight defeats, face a potentially pivotal clash against fellow league strugglers Squires Gate at the Bowl at 6pm. Well, Tony, just taking a look at that, we'll speak about this with Paul Moran on Saturday Live tomorrow in a little more detail, but it's been a tough run of form for the Ravens. quite a lot of supporters coming out online backing the club as well in terms of trying to keep the faith, hoping that results will turn around. Paul Jones has actually said this week they recognise this as a big game. This would be huge to get 3 points from, wouldn't it, if they can?
Well, it is, because they're right next to them in the league, so you got to take the points around them, because when you look at Burscough and other clubs around them, they've started winning games now, and it's putting pressure on FC Isle of Man. When you look at it, against Vauxhall Motors, they were sort of expected to lose, but I wasn't over impressed, to be honest with you, Rob, to say they're top of the league. And I just thought to myself, if the more experienced players had played for FC Isle of Man, I think they could have got out of it. Great to see Sean Doyle back in the squad. Great to see Mikey Williams back in. I don't think they'll start because they've missed too much football. But there's no sort of knocking the players that have been around there. Their commitment has been 100%. It really has. But they just haven't been able to get those all-important goals. And when you're missing someone like Sean, Mikey Williams, Luke Murray, you've also got Dan Simpson to take care of there as well, Lee Gale. It's going to be very, very tough. But the younger players have come in. Great credit to them. They've done well. It's going to be a tough game, but let's get behind them, let's support them, and hopefully FC Isle of Man can win it.
Well, we'll look at that in more detail on Saturday Live tomorrow. So, FC Isle of Man versus Squiresgate, kicking off at the Bowl at 6 p.m. And if you're not down at the Bowl, we've got you covered on Manx Radio. Myself and Tony bringing full live match commentary from 6 p.m. tomorrow on Manx Radio, AM 1368 and digital. Well, Tony, thank you very much, and I'll be catching up with you tomorrow.
Certainly will.
OK, moving on to rugby now, and two Manx sides are on their travels this weekend in the respective competitions across the water. Douglas in the Regional 2 Northwest will head to the Wirral to face a strong Birkenhead Park side. Meanwhile, Vagabonds are continuing their major struggle for points in the Counties 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire League when they make the journey to Thornton Cleveley's one game domestically too in the new look Ravenscroft Manx Trophy. Dave Christian has the details.
We start with Douglas and Regional 2 Northwest. They're away at Birkenhead Park. Douglas 9th, Birkenhead Park 5th. Below Birkenhead Park in 6th place. It doesn't look like the teams at that level aren't going to compete at the top end. There's like a 20-point gap. So Birkenhead Park, the last of the big boys. So Douglas won't be relishing this trip. Having said that, Portashee Birkenhead Park won, but only by 5 points. That was back in October. Douglas will therefore have that in their locker and be thinking these guys could just be beatable. All depends on team selection. We've got some changes, more changes, I think, to this Douglas squad than I've seen for a little while. Coach Phil Kringle, known for being a prop forward, he's starting himself at number 8, which is a little bit of an eyebrow twitcher for me. A lightweight looking back row with John Dutnell and Wilf Kermode. Front row's not bad. Hodnott, Sherwin, Todd. In the second row, though, I see the name Percy Hampton. Now, Percy Hampton was a player for Southern Nomads, so it looks like he's made the transfer. Probably just in time, too, because there is a transfer deadline in rugby union, even at amateur level. That's coming up very rapidly next month. Also on the bench, we have Toby Poole-Wilson from Western Vikings. So Douglas have been a little bit busy behind the scenes. Toby was a quality-looking operator in the back line for Western Vikings. Step up to level 6, though. We'll be interested to see how he gets on, and Percy Hampton as well in the second row. Other than that, the Douglas team looks pretty good. The only fellow that's missing really is Brad Bomar. He picked up an injury in last week's game against Anselmians. I think Douglas got a fair side going away, but I think with the way those selections are gone, I suspect they're not counting on coming back with too much, and the game's probably going to go with the form book, and it'll be a Birkenhead Park win. If you are in the Merseyside area, that game does kick off there at Birkenhead Park. It's at 2:15 tomorrow, so 2:15 kick-off for that one. In Counties 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire, Vagabonds make the trip away to Thornton Cleveley's. Now, Thornton Cleveley's won at Ballyfletcher earlier in the season. This is the second lap, and the positions haven't really changed that much. Thornton Cleveley's upper mid-table, Vagabonds down at the bottom, and they picked up a bonus point last time out up at Ballyfletcher against Ellesmere Port. I suspect they're going to struggle a little bit on the road this week. Thornton Cleveley's a lot higher up the table than Ellesmere Port, much better playing record. I'm hearing that Vagabonds have also been busy with the checkbook, and Daniel Bomwick from Ramsey will be making the trip up to Ballyfletcher, and Daniel, very useful player, can play in the forwards or the backs. Probably don't want him in the front front five, but he can play back row, scrum half, standoff, and probably any position in the back line as well. Proper competitor is young Mr. Bonwick, and that'd be a great signing for Vagabonds. He's not done too much for Ramsey this season, so I don't think his departure from the Mirrock Park is going to make any difference to Ramsey. But great acquisition for Vagabonds. I'm not certain, though, it may be just too little too late to get them away from the relegation zone. And I suspect, no team news as yet, but I suspect they're not going to come back from Thornton Cleveland with any points. Domestically, we've just got the one game. It's in the Ravenscroft Manx Trophy. It's this rather convoluted process where we have one team playing at home, which tomorrow will be Southern Nomads Whites. They're playing down at Ballakillia Park in Port Erin, and they will be taking on Ramsey's Blues and Wetton Vikings. So that's a three-way tie. The home team, if they win, gets 6 points. If the away team wins, they get 3 points each, and hopefully that process levels itself out as the competition progresses. So that's down there tomorrow. Emerging Nomads, or Nomads Whites as we're calling them this season, they're probably going to be a little bit stronger because Nomads Greens don't have a game, but similarly there was a scheduled game which involved Ramsey's Reds and the Eastern Barbarians, so I fancy Ramsey's Blues will be a little bit stronger as well. So that should be a proper old competition down there. That's the game we're covering for Saturday Live. That one also kicks off down there at Ballakillia Park, Port Erin. That's at 2:15.
Manx Radio Sport.
Dave Christian with that report there. Finally tonight, week 3 awaits in the 2023 Manx Hockey men's and ladies seasons this Saturday. As ever, I caught up with Ben Cunningham this week to take a look at some of the fixtures taking place throughout the divisions across tomorrow. We'll start with the ladies Premier League, and we have Castletown A versus Vikings A, and that's at 3:05 at King William's College.
Yeah, this one I think will be a really interesting game, and I've got it down as one of my games of the day. Castletown A stood out so far this season, really proven themselves, but then Vikings A last week held by Backers A at the last attack. It was a slip up definitely for Vikings A, but I wonder whether Castletown could maybe do it. But I think Vikings A will definitely be looking to get back on winning ways after last week.
Castletown B are in action in the Ladies Premier League as well this weekend. 2:05 at QE2, and they're up against Valkyries A.
Yeah, this one I think will be interesting as well. Castletown B have made a good strong start this season, showing that they're really up for this Premier League battle and definitely wanting to stay in the Premier League. But I think Valkyries A will just be too strong for them on the day, so I'm going to go for a Valkyries A win there.
Then we move on to the men's Premier League. 2 games pushing back at 12:35. The first of those at the NSC, and that sees Vikings A playing Backers B.
Yeah, Backers B still searching for their first win of the season. Vikings A finally got their first win of the season last week after their opening weekend defeat. I think Vikings A will just be too strong for Backers B though, so Vikings A win there.
And the other game at 12:35 up north at Ramsey Grammar School. Ramsey A, they host Valkyries A.
I think Ramsey A will be hoping they can get something out of this game against Valkyries A, but I think Valkyries A will be too strong. I've seen them play so far this season and they've been really clinical, so I'm going to go for a Valkyries A win there.
And the other game in the men's Premier League, 2:05 at the NSC. This could be a very intriguing one with Backers A, the defending champions, up against Castletown A.
And I've got this down as my other game of the day. Backers A, of course, reigning champions, but then Castletown A did beat Vikings A. So the question is, can they beat the reigning champions? It'll be interesting to see. I think they're definitely going to be up for it, but I think Backers A will just have the edge on the day.
Let's have a quick rattle through the other divisions, starting with Ladies Division 1. There are 3 games there.
So the first game is at 3:35 at QE2, and this sees Harlequins A against Valkyries B. This one will be a close one. Harlequins A have been really clinical so far, but Valkyries B are definitely looking for their first win of the season. They've got 2 draws so far. It'd be interesting to see if they can pull it off against Harlequins. Second game, again at 3:35 at Castle Rushen, is Vikings B against Ramsey A. Ramsey A, same as Valkyries B, both got draws in their first 2 games so far. Vikings B will definitely be looking for something out of this, but I think Ramsey A will have it on the day. And then at 16:35, we have a interclub derby, and that's Backers C against Backers B, and that's at King William's College.
Then we move on to Men's Division 1. 2 games there, both taking place at QE2 in Peel.
Yep, and the first game is at 11:05, and it's Harlequins B against Valkyries B. Battle of the B teams. Harlequins B definitely be looking to get something out of this, but I think Valkyries B will definitely be looking very strong on the day, and I think Valkyries B will just have it on paper. And then the second game in this league is at 12:35, straight after the 11:35 game. And it's Harlequins A against Vikings C. Harlequins A undefeated so far this season. Vikings C, they got the win last week against Harlequins B. Be interesting to see if they can pull it off against Harlequins A.
And then we move on to Ladies Division 2, 3 games there.
Yep, so the first game is at 11:05 at the NSC, and that's Castletown C against Harlequins B. This one will be a close one, I reckon, but I think Castletown C might just have it on edge here. Second game at 12:35 is at Castle Rushen. That's Vikings C against Castletown D. This one I think will be close as well. Castletown C and Castletown D have made good, strong statements, and they did draw against each other last week in their interclub derby, but I think Viking C might just be a bit too strong on the day for Castletown D. And then the final game is at 2:05, and that's Ramsey B against Valkyrie C, and I'm going to go for a Valkyrie C win there.
And then we move into Men's Division 2, and there are 2 games there.
So the first game is at 2:05 at Castle Rushen High School, and that's Castletown C against Backers C. This one will be interesting. Battle of the C teams could go either way. Backers C definitely got the experience, but I wonder if Castletown C will bring out their youth and see if that can help them. So I'm going to go for a Castletown C win there. And then the final game is Backers Colts against Ramsey B, and that's at 3:35 at the NSC. This one will be very close, I reckon. Backers Colts are full of youth and that, but Ramsey B are a very strong outfit. It'd be close, but I think Backers Colts might just get it on the day.
And then last but certainly not least, we have 3 games in the Mixed Under-15s League on Saturday.
So the first game is Backers against Vikings, and that's at 11:05 at Castle Rushen High School. Next game is a Castletown derby, and it sees Castletown Sabres against Castletown Sharks, and that's at 1:30 at King William's College. And then the final game is Ramsey Rogues and Rascals against Harlequins, and that's at 3:35 at Ramsey Grammar.
Manx Radio Sport.
That's all we have time for on Friday Sport Preview this week. Many thanks to my guests this week, Tony Mepham, Dave Christian and Ben Cunningham. Well, have yourself a wonderful Friday evening, whatever you're doing, and have yourself a wonderful weekend as well. So until next time, it's bye for now.